Hello and welcome to a Factorio tutorial. I've been hanging around in the Factorio Facebook channel and it's lovely to see so many new players coming in since the 1.0 release. There have been some queries recently about how to build green circuits, people saying they run out of them or they don't work or whatever. So I thought I'd go through a series of early to mid-game builds and the rationale behind them, and a little bit about how you can transition from one to the next. So let's start off by looking at the recipes. I'm going to put down a couple of machines. I'm in creative mode, so obviously normally you'd need to do some work to make some machines. Right, in the intermediate products tab we have a whole load of things. Electronic circuit, that's what we want to make. And if we look at the recipe for that, it produces one electronic circuit for one iron plate and 3 copper cables. Okay, you can see those there. And it does this with a base speed of 1.2 seconds. That's not really the important thing right now. Okay, sorry, I'm just going to put on alt mode so that we can actually see what the machines are doing. Is it even on? There we are. All right. And flashing things are rubbish. So I'm just going to put down some fake power. I'm in creative mode if you're wondering what all this purple stuff is and why I can craft with no cost. Obviously, normally I would do this with an actual factory, but since it's a tutorial, life is too short. Okay. So this is going to make the coils, and again, copper coils are on the intermediate products. And this produces 2 copper cable from 1 copper plate every half seconds. All right. Now, if this is producing 2 every half second, that's 4 a second. This is consuming 3 coils every half second. Okay, so if you want to produce exactly the right amount of coil for the amount of green circuits, it's a 3:2 ratio. Now I'm just going to double check that using max rate calculator. It's Control N, then you can run a lasso over any combination of buildings and it comes up with ratios and numbers. So these are our 3 and 2, and you can see the net machines balances out as 0. So this would make some green circuits, 120 per minute. It's going to consume 360 copper coil, but that's 180 copper plate, 120 iron plate to produce 120 green circuits. So when you first start out in a Factorio game, you are pretty much trying to automate the red and the green science pots. The red pot just needs copper and gears. The green pots require arms and belts. The belts are again iron and gears. The arms are gears, iron, and electronic circuits. So you need some electronic circuits to produce the arms to make the green science. You also, early on, want some green circuits for making all the things which require green circuits to craft, because handcrafting green circuits is really slow. And it turns out that while you're doing red and green, science, and military, you really only need about 4 or so green circuit machines to keep everything going. So, and that is what, 6? Yeah, 6 coil machines, 4 green circuit machines. So that's the biggest thing you need until you've done your red, green, and military build. So what are the options for how to make this so that it is efficient? and quick to build as well. So the sort of simple stupid build looks, let's move that down one, something like that. So if you remember, each copper plate you make produces 2 copper coils. When you first start the game, your inserters are slow. So we could do something, yeah, in fact, let's do something like that. Okay, so I'm going to get some belts so you can see where the belts would go. So we would run a belt up here, we'd run a belt up here, and a belt down there to get the product out. So here we're going to put in, let's see if I can find my way around this creative mode. It's one I've not really used very much, really. Okay. All right, so this is going to feed copper onto the belt. This is going to feed iron onto the belt. And in a minute, we should get some green circuits. Good, we've got green circuits. So all is good with the world. Now, let's just reiterate why we've done the build this way. We can keep one of these machines running full time with a slow inserter. Everything that's loaded in here produces 2 items. So we use 2 items per coil machine to empty them. Then each green circuit machine needs 1 copper plate and it's going to produce 1 green circuit. So we have 1 inserter feeding it and 1 inserter emptying it. So you would want 2 of these builds. Sorry, I need to move that down 1. And let's just get this down. There you are. Let's get rid of those. So that is your first build. Now, if you're building it on a bus, you would do like I have with things coming in one direction and then the product counterflowing. If you were building a more sort of speedrunner or spaghetti base, you'd take this belt out in the same direction onto the next bit of the factory above. But, you know, that's basically it. I'm going to move this power out of the way to there. That's good. All right. Now, how big can we make this? So, as soon as you've got red and green signs up, probably before you even start on military properly, you'll have steel. So you will be upgrading from these tier 1 grey machines. I think they are grey. Are they grey? Yeah, they're sort of, yeah, they are. To the tier 2 assembling machines. So, just so that we can see the difference in speed, this is producing 240 green circuits a minute. If we grab these assembling machines, these are now running faster because the blue machines run more quickly. This is now producing 360, so we've gone from 240 a minute to 360 a minute. Obviously, they are also consuming more material. You can see actually this is almost running out of copper. Let's find out. So if I run a calculator over here, this is consuming 540 copper plates a minute. Now let's change that to per second. That's 9 per second, okay? Now, a yellow belt in total carries 15 items. So on each side, it carries 7.5 items. So this half lane of copper can't actually run all of these blue assemblers at full speed. And you can see actually this is starved of copper plate. So to run this build, you need a full 2 belts of copper. And in fact, if you do that, you may as well extend this out. There we go. Now, we have a look at this. This produces a grand total of 27 copper coil for 13.5 copper plates in. That's nearly, but not quite, a full belt copper. And it produces nearly, but not quite. Right, so let's count this. This is producing 9 green circuits a second. And 9 green circuits a second is more than the 7.5 that you can fit on half a belt. So actually this last machine is sometimes filling up. I don't know if we'll see that happening, but sometimes this machine won't be able to output. Okay, let's switch this to a full belt of iron plate, just for the sake of realizing things. All right, so this last one is going to have trouble outputting sometimes, because it's producing slightly over half a belt of... There it is, it's stalled. Now that's not a problem. This one's running full speed, and you know. But if you were to extend this out further, you're wasting machines. And so I sometimes see people at the beginning of games building things that are like this big, and they get them running, and most of the machines are idle because they can't be fed. There's not enough input, and they can't dump out their output. Okay, so let's get rid of that. So the next improvement we can make to this style of build is about how we dump the product out. And there's a whole variety of ways to do this. Everybody has their own favorite method. But I'll show one that uses underground belts. Now you don't want to be doing things with underground belts at the beginning of your game because underground belts are expensive. All right. And let's see if we can get this actually right. There, I think it is. I'm building this from memory, so that's it. So if you line the underground belts up here with the red inserters, I think that's best, isn't it? So we'll line these out with what we currently have as red inserters. That's good. All right. So I was outputting with a red inserter over the top of the iron belt, but now that I've put down some undergrounds, we can output. We may not have quite enough. Let's do it this way. Yeah, I think that's the best way. Good. All right, so we're going to output here. And then merge that in with a splitter. There we go. And in fact, you can insert onto a splitter. So it's a nice belt trick that many people don't seem to know. Okay. And then if we did something like that, we are now going to put out our green circuits on both sides of the belt, and you can see the belt is starting to fill up down here. So we could now take this to, is that the right place? Right. Okay, and now all of these are going to start trying to work. And we'll find there's a problem in a minute, but let's see the problem happen. So you can see we're getting something that looks a lot more like a full belt of green circuits now. But if we head up here, we're running out of copper to run the copper coil machines. The reason for that, if you remember, it's a 3:2 ratio of copper plates to iron plates to produce 2 units of green circuit. So really what you need is 3 belts of copper, okay, and 2 belts of iron. Now, the way that you bring the second belt of iron in is a bit Hobson's choice, and you do kind of want to design this ahead of time. So I'm going to take these off that are emptying the green circuit machine currently. And I'm going to make room for another belt. So obviously this is not something you'd want to re-engineer halfway through builds because it's awkward. I'm going to cut this, move it over one, and I'm going to put in a second belt, but iron belt, by the side of this. Okay, there we go. And there is method in my madness. Alright, that looks about right. Good. So now I'm going to output with a long-handed inserter. And I may as well... Actually, we can get rid of some of these splitters. So let's do a slightly cleaner build. There we are. So that's how we're going to do it. There's obviously a million ways to do these, but I'm just illustrating the principle behind the build, so that you can build one of your own that behaves how you feel comfortable. Alright, so that's how our little bit of stubs are going to behave. Good. Okay, so what we can do here is we have basically a series of builds. We've got 18 coils, and I'm actually going to add on one more bank of machines on here. And I'll show you why in a moment. Okay. So, it turns out that 10 coil machines is enough to consume exactly one belt of plates. So that's 10. So, what I want to do is take this up to there and put that in. Then I want to take this up. And is that the 10th one there? I have trouble counting sometimes. That's 10. That's 10. Okay. And then I want 10 more on top. So let's take that. Put that there. Brilliant. Alright, we have some lack of power, but I think we can fix that with another substation. There we go. Okay, so you can see now copper is getting all the way up. Now, remember it's a 3:2 ratio. So we went 10 machines up for the copper coils. We would go 15 green circuit machines. Which I think... how many do we have? No. It is, it's 10. 10 of these. 10 is there. Okay, so what we want to do at this point is deadhead that. And then we can get rid of all this belt because it's no longer doing anything. But it's convenient to keep it all lined up. There we go. So now this whole thing should be running. Now if you remember, at the 10 point, we're consuming one iron plate to produce one green plate. So at this point here, we would have actually filled up an entire belt of green circuits. So let's go down there. There we go. Now, there's various builds people do of these, which involve lots of splitters and lots of shenanigans with belts, but this is just a quick, simple way to do it. So if you have 3 smelters producing copper, 2 smelters producing iron, you can feed it into an array like this and have 2 full belts, full yellow belts of green circuits. So there's probably little snags with this build. There may be little inefficiencies, but this is absolutely fine for an early medium game green circuit build. All right, so that's version 1. Now, version 2 of green circuits is a lot more lazy, and it's closer to what you tend to see in speedrun setups. It's a lot quicker to build. You can see this is a bit complicated. There's lots of things going on. And often, I mean, you can make green circuits centrally. There's nothing wrong with that, and putting them on your bus as 4 or 8 lanes of green circuits. People do it, and it's a perfectly bona fide way to work. Other people prefer to make resources, at the point they're going to use them. And for that, you want a much more compact, self-contained build. So, what I would suggest is something a bit more like this. Okay. Now, remember, this is meant to be a 3-to-2 ratio. 1-to-1 ratio is wasteful. We're only using half. We've got half a spare coil machine for each circuit machine. However, it's not the end of the world, and this is quite a nice, tiny, neat build. To make this work, we would need these to be fed. We need 2 outputs for each coil machine, remember. We're going to have an iron input, and we're going to have a red circuit output. Okay, so this can be our copper. There we are. Then we'll have some iron coming in. And we will counterflow the green circuits back out. Although in a speedrun build, you'd tend to take these on directly through into your factory. Okay, so you can see this build works. Now, it's not going to produce 5 machines worth of green circuits. So it's not going to produce the same output as this. The output from this is half a belt, 7.5. It's going to produce the output that can be produced by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coil machines. Okay, there you are. Those are the 5 coil machines. And you can see they're running 3 green circuit machines at full speed and 1 at half speed. So instead of 5 machines worth of output, you're going to get 3.5 worth of output. That's fine. That's more than enough initially to keep your factory running. You need 2.5, I think, to basically keep everything ticking over. So you've got a machine in hand for, grabbing a stack of 100 green circuits and handcrafting some miners. This will keep you going for a while. Of course, it won't keep you going forever, but the solution to that is to make a second one of these. So to illustrate that, I'm going to copy this out of the way. Good. And put down some power, will I? Put down some power. That's not going to fit where I want it. Right. There we go. All right. So the solution to this, basically, is to double it, right? You can see where I'm going with this. I'm not going to build the thing because it's annoying, but you can end up with these green circuits going into one set of factories and these into another, and everything's fine. All right. So if you remember earlier, we upgraded our brown tier 1 machines to blue tier 2 machines. Now, we could upgrade everything to tier 2 machines with this build. However, if you remember, the tier 2 machines run faster. So if we were to do that, it actually turns out that because these run faster but you need more product, that this balances out. So this machine is now keeping this machine running at full speed. So we are now producing 5 green circuit machines worth of green circuits, which is half a belt. So this build produces half a belt of green circuits, which is quite cool, I think. Okay, what next? Well, later on, when you're a bit richer, we could put down the next tier of machine here, but these will be stalling, obviously. However, if you then load them up with production modules, it slows them down again, but they produce more stuff. So if we ask these what's going on, in fact, I'm going to do it with a single machine so you can see. Okay, so let's take these prop mods out. So the comparison was a tier 1 machine versus a tier 2 machine with prop mods. So this produces 1 green circuit per second. This produces 1.45 green circuits per second. So nearly half again. This consumes 1 plate. This consumes 1.3 plate. So you can see that this was 1 for 1. This is 1.46 for 1.35. So we're actually getting more product out per product in, and we're getting more product overall. So this is a really big improvement over your initial build. So you've got these 3 steps of upgrade. You start off with coil circuit. Then you upgrade to blue machines for there. And then you upgrade to production modules in a blue assembler. And by doing this stepwise upgrade, you keep the same build without growing it, and you increase the amount of green circuits you're making. It's a real win. The other things to watch out for. I'm running this in creative mode with all the tech unlocked. So my inserters have bonuses. If you haven't come across that before, the 1, 2, 3, the third button in here shows bonuses, and I've got inserter capacity bonus 3. That means that every swing they pick up 3 items instead of 1. So this would not actually run. The version I'm just going to copy this over so you can see. This version would run, but this would not. To make this run, you can make it work with this combination of inserters. So you need a fast inserter loading the copper plates and the iron plates, and then you can get away with 1 fast and 1 slow inserter moving the coils. Okay, so this build here, if we were doing it properly, would look something like, in fact, for the sake of ease, you may well swap these belts around so you can just swipe all the way across like that to build it. Anyway, we'll stick with the build we've got for now. So let's upgrade that. So that would be the combination of inserters you would use for an early game green circuit build. And that's about it, really. There's obviously complicated and fancy things you can do in the future with beacons, higher tier modules and all that stuff, but I'm not really going to go into that. It's not really worth my effort. The only other thing I'm going to show you is, let's grab one of these. Let's reverse the direction of this belt. And I'm going to copy this. What unit is it that I want to copy? Is that right? Yeah, that's 10. Good, and I'm going to put on the product sync up here. Where's it gone? There. Okay, so this kind of setup here works fine. The problem with it is that at some point you fill up the belt, right? You can see most of these machines are idle because they're outputting to a side of the belt which is full. So you need some kind of lane switching going on here. Now there's lots of ways to do it, and it's actually easier to do if we had put the lanes around the other way. But what we can do is something like that. And now we're putting half the product on one side of the belt, half the product on the other side of the belt, and we're making something like a full lane of circuits. So that's it, really. I hope you found that informative and instructive. I use both these styles of builds in different playthroughs. I use this kind of build if I'm doing a main bus type of setup, because ultimately you end up with that and another couple of belts there and another 3 belts there, and you go for something that has this on both sides, right? I haven't lined that up correctly, but you get the idea. And so you end up having this big sort of green circuit factory battery thing which produces green circuits. And they just go into 4 lanes on your bus and you send them off to everywhere. When I'm doing spaghetti bases or more speedrunner bases, I use these kind of builds and I make them as and when they are needed in the factory to power other things. And to be honest, this is the sort of thing I tend to do more often now because it's got a much easier upgrade path, particularly since you're not shipping the green circuits a long way, so you don't have to worry about filling up 4 or 8 belts worth of green circuits. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to shut up now. Hope you enjoyed this mini tutorial. If you liked it, like and subscribe. I'm not doing as many videos as I used to, but I'll do some more if people care. And if you hit me up on Facebook as Matthew Pocock in the Facebook Factorio channel and pester me, then I can make a red circuits tutorial to partner with this one. So long and thanks for all the fish. I will see you on the other side. Bye-bye.